Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me tonight on our third live chat. Tonight we're going to look at sales and marketing. Please excuse me tonight, it's a big subject and I've got 39 pages of notes, so I'm going to be looking at these and guiding it through stuff. Now, I just want to say that without customers, we don't have a business. And yet it's such a difficult thing for a lot of people to do. They struggle like crazy to get customers. And I want to prove to you that it is a process. It's not the gift of the gab, it's not anything else like that, it's not luck. There is a very defined process to follow. And I think really before we start looking at these processes, I just want to say that I think one of the reasons why people have problems in recruiting clients and customers is sometimes what we call a fear of success. And to explain what I mean by that, I was talking to a colleague today who many years ago used to run a pub, and he found running the pub very easy. He enjoyed it all except for one thing. He didn't like listening to his customers. So his customers used to come in, he'd pull them a pint and he'd sit there listening, and in his words, the crap that they talk about. And, you know, we all get that because sometimes we don't like listening to the crap that people talk. But in this case, it became to such a degree that he didn't even want to come to the counter and serve people. And in everything that you do, there's always an element of something that you don't like to happen. So by achieving what you want, which is a sale, sometimes it brings things to you that you don't want. In the case of the gentleman I was talking to this afternoon, it's having to talk to and listen to conversation about rubbish. There's other reasons why you might not want to make that sale, but these are there might be little things, but they're important, because if you're self-sabotaging on each time you're looking to make a sale, then you're not going to make very many sales no matter how much you try. So I think one of the reasons that we like people to join one of our groups is because we don't just look at things like the 7 principles of sales or the 7 stages. We look at why you're not making sales, and I think sometimes you should ask these questions. I could ask you a very important question now, because I could say to you, if you could do just one thing and you did it regularly, that would change everything for you, what would that one thing be? I mean, the second question is why aren't you doing it? But the first question is what is it that you could do now? You do it every day, and if you did it, you'd do very, very well, and it would change your whole business. But you don't do it, and even now, thinking about it, you don't want to quite touch there. You don't want to quite think. Now, I looked at myself, and I thought one of the things that I did very well with years ago to set up various different businesses was telesales. It was as simple as that. But all of a sudden I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't pick up that phone, and the thought of picking up that phone, even though I knew it would bring business into me. So, you know, just consider that, and maybe tell me now what that one thing is that you just really don't want to do, but you know you should do. You know, I don't really expect you to tell me, but it'd be good if you did, because the more you ask questions, the more you begin to study. I mean, I rarely ask a question unless I sort of know the answer, and I suspect you're the same. So just going back to what tonight's session is about, which is the process of making sales. And it is a big subject, and we do chop these sessions into small modules with more detail, ready to discuss or put into our sort of coaching groups. So let's carry on. Now, looking at sales 101, you've got to sort of know your customers, know who they are. So if you can describe your customers, I mean, I've just had a note from somebody saying that he doesn't like sending out emails to people. Well, tough. There's no problem with sending emails out. So that's somebody trying to wind me up. But you know, when we, and sometimes we just have to do it anyway. But we can talk about that again. But we've got to know who our customers are. I mean, it's no point selling pork sausages to vegetarians or even rabbis for that reason. So knowing who your customers are is very, very important. Knowing what they want is important, because obviously if you know what they want, you can paint a picture of your product to show that that's what they want. I mean, can you tell me something that one of your customers wants? So let me know something that is the main reason somebody buys your product. And then the third thing is know why they would buy off you rather than a competition. So what's your USP? So a lot of making sales is all about research. It's all about measurement. It's all about monitoring your KPIs. Now, KPI is simply something that happens that you can measure, like how many people walk past your shop, how many people click onto your website, how many sausages, I've got a thing with sausages, how many sausages can you sell rather than pies? You know, everything's measured and you can follow patterns, and once you've got patterns going, you can add all sorts of things to encourage healthy patterns. So here's another question for you before we really kick in. Do you know what a prospect is? So what's a prospect? What is a prospect? You know, I'm sure we sort of vaguely know. Well, a prospect is just somebody that might be interested in your product. So somebody out there is interested in your product and therefore there's a prospect. But how do we turn them into a lead? How do you turn them into a lead? You turn them into a lead by knowing that they're interested in their product, in your product, because they've made some inquiry, they've shown some interest in what you're doing. And there's a third one. So you've got prospect, you've got lead, then there's a suspect. Now, suspects are very important, but apart from someone that might have stolen your sausages, what is a suspect? Well, we hate suspects because they're the people that come and take advantage of all your free gifts and offerings and ask questions and make inquiries, but they're not really interested. So they're not only they're not interested, but they've not got the ability to be able to buy. So we have to spend a lot of time identifying these three types of people, because obviously time is valuable and we don't want to waste it on people that can't or are not interested in buying your product. So moving on, we've talked about the fear of success, but I want to show you that everything is a process, and there's basically 7 steps to this process, and everything actually is a process, even making a film. So even in the film business, you make what comes to mind, Monty Python. So even they've got a script, they've got timing, they've got a process to follow. Yeah, we are giving too much away for free, definitely. But everything is a process. So it's generally divided into 7 steps, and these 7 steps form a logical framework. It's been proven over time. I mean, my thought process of the 7 steps of a sale is that they do definitely work, but what works better is that engagement with people. So if you are proud of your products, if you really want people to have your products, if you live by your products, then the 7 steps come naturally. I mean, can you actually remember how you made your last sale? I mean, if you just stood at the counter and someone came in and put it on the counter and they bought it off you, but if you're involved in more direct sales or bigger sales, can you go through in your head what it was that made that the steps you took to make that sale? Or even if you've gone out and you've bought something, what were the steps that the salespeople and where you went to buy? I mean, you bought a car, you bought some furniture, and there was a sales process that you might not have noticed that they were using, but they most definitely did. I mean, it's a bit like, I believe it or not, looking at this stomach, I went to a gym a couple of years ago, and when I walked in, I just said, I'm interested in the gym, can I have a look around? And you know, a young man came out, he started showing me around, but before he did, he sat me down and he started asking me some questions, because he obviously wanted to know more about me. Now, being you know, an accountant for the last 30 years and in business 5 years before that, and 5 years before that as well, I I knew that he was fact finding. He was trying to find information about me so that he could close me onto this deal. You know, what is it you want the gym for? Well, obviously I want to lose weight. Do you want to get fitter? Well, no, actually I don't want to do any of these things. I just want to go to somewhere where there's a pool and a jacuzzi so I can just sit there and pretend I've done some exercise. You know, maybe bring someone to do some business in the jacuzzi, which I've done in the past. So, you know, knowing what your customer wants means that he will probably be more likely to tell me about the wonderful pool and the wonderful spa and the bar afterwards. He's probably not as likely to tell me about the weights and the trampoline that they have and all the other things that make you sweat. You know, he might ask me if I was interested in doing any classes. What do I enjoy doing? Because, you know, oh, I wouldn't mind doing a bit of fencing. Oh, you know, years ago I did a bit of wrestling. Oh, you know what? We do have fencing classes, and this is how people get you hooked. So, all sales, in one way or another, do follow the 7 processes. Now, here's a test. Does anybody know what the 7 steps are, or if there are any? So I'll just sit here now for 20 minutes while you answer. No, I'm only kidding. Okay, so the first step is prospect and qualify. So we've got to get out there and prospect. We're looking for the right target market because, like I said, we're not selling pork sausages to vegetarians. We want the people that want those pork sausages. So we're looking around at that. We're looking to try and get people into that. We want to make sure that you are not wasting your time with suspects. So we want some way of qualifying what people are. So are they the owner of the business? Are they, in my case, because there's no point as an accountant trying to sell to somebody that isn't a business owner, and certainly not someone that can make the decision to employers, appointers. So we want to make sure that people fit into that category where they can buy the product, they are allowed to buy the product, and they need that the product's of use to them. Otherwise, they're just a suspect, and we don't want to be rude, or they're being rude in a way to get rid of them. Then that's what we do. Then we've got a pre-approach. We've got the first steps of approaching them. Now that could be an email, it could be a phone call. It could be, you know, waving at someone from a shop window. It's a bit like dating, really, because you go somewhere, you meet somebody, and you explore them, you get to know about them, and bit by bit you bring them in. It's all about relationship building. Don't forget that. Whenever you have any of these stages, it's all about relationship building. So we've got the pre-approach, we've got the approach. So you've been eyeing them up, you sent an email, then you go out and contact them. So that's the approach. Then you make a presentation. Now, presenting is a skill all in its own. It's something that I'm trying to get better at. So you've got the presentation, and then obviously when you've presented, people are going to give you some feedback. I mean, the worst ones are the ones that just sit there and say nothing, but the best ones are those that say, give you something that they're not, you know, that they're not interested because. So, well, what if I could do it in red? You know, an objection is a buying signal. You've got to listen to what people are saying. Now, if it's a one-to-one sale where you sat there with somebody and you're plugging something to them, then it's much easier. But if it's a group sale or it's people coming to your shop, you've got to do even more measurement because you can't get as quick a feedback. So if people are coming to your shop and they're heading towards a certain shelf or they're avoiding another shelf, and I know that when I had my shops, I noticed that with men in particular, men will only look like that. So if anything's on the lower shelf or the higher shelf, they're not buying. You know, they've got it right in front of them, and that is an objection itself. You've just got to spot it. And obviously, once we've presented, once we've overcome the objections, then we can close the sale. Now, I do have another podcast on closing techniques. It is out there. It's a bit long-winded, so we're going to chop it up, and you can see segments of it. But it is there on the YouTube site. So if you do click and subscribe to the YouTube site and like it and do everything, you'll have access to all of this. And of course, after you've closed the sale, which is hopefully most of the time. But that's another KPI we measure. At what stage of all this cycle are things stopping? So if you get to stage 3, which is the approach, and it's not going further, that in itself is telling you more. So it's all about measuring data. And of course, once you've closed the sale, there's the follow-up. So I've joined the gym. The guys signed me up, and I've agreed the package that they've presented. So they might have presented a bronze package where I can only go out of popular hours, like between 9 and 5. I can't go in the evening, or I can't go at weekend. Or they might give me the silver package or the gold package, and of course I want the platinum package, don't I? And it's only £5 a month more. So after I've closed on that and I've gone away, so then there's a follow-up. Now there's a lot of follow-up done when people haven't bought the product, but maybe a follow-up after people have bought the product. How are you finding it? We've got these extra classes on. We've got the these special swimming trunks, or this bathing robe, especially for you. These are the 7 steps. So I'll ask again, does anybody remember any of the selling steps? Don't worry if you don't, because we'll go through them in more individually during the coaching program. So let me get the next piece of paper here, because I've got so much I keep forgetting what I've got to say. The thing to remember before I go on to the next bit, though, is that the sales process is adaptive. So there's no fixed formula, there's no fixed questions, and that's because each situation is different. So you're talking to people that have got different viewpoints. Like if you're an estate agent and you've got an elderly couple coming along, you're probably not going to show them a big mansion. You're probably going to show them maybe a flat on the 1st or 2nd floor, so it's easy to get up. And maybe a bungalow would be more popular. So remember, you're looking at the conversation towards what your target, it's a terrible word that for sales, isn't it, for what your new friend is looking to buy. And it's also important to know where each person is in the selling point, in the selling process, because if you already know somebody, you already know what they're interested in, there's no reason to labour that. Fact finding is great, all this information, because it means that your presentation can be adapted to what these people want. I mean, many years ago, it all sounds very sneaky, this, but it's just giving people what they want. I used to sell kitchens, and I was in somebody's house presenting a kitchen, and it was a younger couple, and the choice was a choice between having a new kitchen or having a holiday, and they were veering so much to the holiday. And I think that's because they expected a much higher price for the kitchen, because obviously I'd shown them what a wonderful kitchen this was, and it was the Rolls Royce of kitchens. But what I'd also done was I'd built in £500, which at the time was quite a lot of money, still a lot of money. And I told them that obviously the kitchen came with a bonus for them, and it included this holiday to Spain that they so wanted to go. So I just hadn't discounted the kitchen as much as I could, and included the £500 in that as a cashback when they took out the finance, and everybody was happy. Now, don't know whether you think that's sneaky or what, but they got the holiday, they got the kitchen, I got my commission, the company got the sale, and we moved on to the next one. Remember, you're only as good as your last sale. So let's what we've got next. So, selling business to consumer and selling business to business are quite similar. The only thing you've got to remember is that a business to consumer sale is about something that they want. New kitchen, new carpet, new frying pans, a season ticket, going to paintball, whatever it is that you're selling. Whereas business to business sales are more about how the business owner can capitalise on that. So selling stock to businesses, great, they can resell it. They're making a profit on what you sell them. So you just make sure that they understand how much profit they're going to make on what you're selling them. If you're selling them some machinery, then obviously that machinery is going to have a return for them. It's going to replace something and do it in a better way, or it's going to do something new for them that they hadn't had before. So again, understand what your customer wants, understand how they operate things, because it's no good selling someone some software that's going to automate their whole business and save them thousands of pounds in, I hate to say it, but wages quite often, because that's often where software goes. But if no one knows how to use it, or it doesn't fit in with the company culture, then they're not going to buy it off you. I mean, we offer software out there all the time. We sell we're main agents for most of the main software, accounting software, bookkeeping suppliers. What sort of software do you use, by the way? But we're main agents for Xero and QuickBooks and Sage. But we don't sell the software. We say we use this software for you, but we do the work for you. We do it. So people know they're getting the state-of-the-art software, but they know that we're going to operate it for them, and that's where we come in. That's what people want to see. So that's that bit. So now I've jumped a bit here because I've talked without reading my notes, but it's just reiterating again. Sorry, Mum, that means saying again. By the way, I've now that we're going global and millions of people are watching this live chat, I've been asking people who wanted me to mention them, and nobody wants me to mention them. In fact, one person said, please don't mention me. So, Melanie, I won't mention you. So anyway, sorry. After some, so we're always fact finding. I think they used to say ABS, always be selling. So, and this is what we're doing. We're not selling. We're information gathering all the time. And then I just this follow up thing. Everybody's so all over you when you make the sale. You know, at the point of selling, they're getting the champagne out. They're saying, yeah, that's great, that's wonderful, please come again. And they can't do enough for you, but then they sort of forget about you. And hopefully nothing goes wrong, but if it does, hopefully they deal with it, and that's the only time they do. But you're sort of like second rate then, because they've got the commission, they've got the money, they've got the profit. And it's very easy to do that, but always forget that your customers are for life. They're not just for Christmas. Because if quite often you've got to look at the lifetime value of a product. So it's not just a case, I've just sold this bottle of Coke, I've made 10 pence. You're thinking all the time that customer's coming back, and that customer's going to buy a bottle of Coke every day of me. And sometimes we can add a newspaper with that, or we can add fries with that. So all the time, always be building relationships with people. Whether you're buying a gym membership or a mobile phone or whatever it is, it's very important to keep in touch with clients and customers. I mean, incidentally, think of all your customers as clients. Traditionally, the difference between a customer and a client is that a client is someone you give a personal service to rather than a product. But if you look at everybody as a client, then it's more about the service they're buying than the product, because the product you can generally get anywhere. But if you give them that service, then they'll keep coming back. I'm constantly looking at ways that we can engage with clients and beyond. And our latest thing are these videos, these live chats, and of course our coaching and mentoring groups. So don't forget to subscribe. You can always gain on these groups, even if you know everything. Maybe you can pass along that wisdom to some people that don't. And we're always looking for stories. We're always looking for answers. Questions are great, but I'm not getting any tonight, probably because I'm answering them too quickly. So we've done that one. So research, always research your customers. Sometimes before you meet a customer, maybe do a little background check on them. I don't mean go to company's house and see who's who and everything else, but you can do that to get the strength of them, to see whether they can actually afford your products. The best thing to do is, these days it's so easy to go online and you look at someone's website or Facebook site, and you can get so much information about people. You can tell by the style of the website, by the style of their offerings. Like, I don't know if you've watched any of our between the spreadsheets podcasts, but I did a great one with my nephew who has got little mini podcasts advertising products by basically showing his sister, my niece, falling off the horse. He's just what, but they're showing the strength of some of the boots, and as it happens, by my niece falling off a horse, her boots just came in the shot. It was an accident, and the boots were they were shown, and he started selling loads of these boots, which is, that's what it's about. Incidentally, my niece has just got engaged, so I thought I'd put that out. So congratulations, Nicole. But it is important to know who you're dealing with, and it is important to sort of talk to them in that language. That's why it's also important to know what your USP is, and concentrate on the products and build up the type of audience that you want. So now I'm heading towards just a little bit more of prospecting, because I don't think people actually prospect enough. And it's going back to the beginning, that what's your worst fear? What is it that stops you from doing this? Because prospecting is something that people really, really don't do. And I'm not sure why. I think a lot of people can pitch. I think a lot of people can close. But getting the prospects coming through is the difficult thing. So we need to first look at why you're not prospecting, and why it's not effective. I mean, if it is effective and there's sticking blocks somewhere else, we can look at that, certainly. But prospecting is very important, because without it, we're not really going to get anywhere. I mean, I know I've mentioned before in one of my podcasts, when I had my father on the show, and I always like this one because I think it's great. I think if you're out there and you've got purpose behind you, and you enjoy your product and you want that out there, then you go knocking on doors, you go calling people, you do all sorts. I think it's because people avoid doing that direct contact, that they fall into the trap of doing more and more online. So they fall into the trap of a lot of SEO people, who some are very good, but a lot of it really doesn't work, and it costs a lot of money, when we think, well, we can just go and knock on someone's door and go and do a bit of canvassing. I mean, ask yourself, can anyone tell me what they actually, how they actually got their first customer? Because people forget that at one point they did obtain customers without the internet, without waiting for the phone to ring. I don't wait for the phone to ring because, quite frankly, I don't trust the phone to ring. So I'm always looking at ways of engaging with new people and more deeply with the people we've got. So do consider that. I mean, how did you get your first customer? So let me move on to the next one. I mean, look at all those notes just to say two words. I've got what's this one? The other problem people have, and I've mentioned it before when we talk about suspects, is that they're just not qualifying their target market properly. They're looking at inquiries from absolutely anybody. I mean, I had a problem with my website, and I'm not sure why, but in a period of 3 months, we got something like 3,500 hits, but nothing out of those, nothing really turned into an actual inquiry. I mean, you can say that the website's rubbish, but it's not, and you can say that our SEO isn't working, but it does, because it's driving 3,500 people to the site. But then when we looked at what articles I was writing that people were springing from, we suddenly realised that, these articles are really good and really interesting, so we can put them in the magazine, but it's attracting the wrong target. So one of the articles I wrote was a little bit about supermarkets, because I think that supermarkets are dreadful, and they kill small business that do offer really good choice. And the fact that a cheese shop, which I used to like, really closed down because of Tesco's open around the corner, meant I couldn't get some really nice camembert that I like, because Tesco's just don't sell that type of quality. But that's my personal gripe. But if you don't know who you're, you don't qualify your leads properly, they end up going to Tesco's, and they don't come to you because they're not really your target market. Tesco's can afford to have hundreds of people going to different aisles, but you need to focus in on what you're selling. Now, we've talked about the pre-approach, which is doing your homework. You know, if we'll talk about this in more detail, because it sounds like you have a drink, but they didn't go out to drink. It was developing a pub that you go to and you've got a reason to go to. So I like that idea of pubs opening and giving you other reasons to go, like rent a desk and work here. I mean, I think it was Karl Marx wrote his manifesto in a pub in Salford. I think it's something like that anyway. But you know, again, USP, qualify, what makes you different. These are things that work. I think we've mentioned. No, I'm not going to do that one because it's boring. But we will pick it up in one of our modules. So by the time you present your product, you should know enough to be able to highlight the benefits for them. Now, I'm not sure if you know about benefits and features, but sometimes your products has a benefit to the client, which is different from the feature. So a camera, like I'm looking into a camera at the moment, and it might have, I don't know, 27 lens, and it might have a pause button, it might have instant editing, and it might have a cue on it. And these are all features of the camera. And when people start telling me things like that, I'm blanking off. But when they say, you know what, we can put you on this camera and make you look really good, and we can edit it in like 10 seconds, you know, now that's a benefit. But you need to know a little bit more about the client to understand. Let's see, Vicky, thank you, Vicky. Think of your USP sort of like why your wife or husband chose you. There are 7 billion other options, but you are chosen. Why? Do you want me to answer that one? I think it's just because I used to have lots of money. That's devastatingly good looking, but I do take your point. Everything is to do with finding your USP. And thank you, Vicky. That was nice of you. So I know I mentioned before, but it is worth going over again. After you've made your sales presentation, it is natural for customers not to be sure of what it is that they've got something that's stopping them from buying. Sometimes it could just be because they don't like you. Sometimes it could be something you've said that doesn't quite gel with them, and sometimes it's because something outside of what it is that you're talking about that they're not sure about. So, but this is why investigation before presentation is so important. But if they are convinced that they want your product, then you know, don't run away. I know when I used to sell my kitchens, I used to keep a bottle of wine in the boot. I used to go out to celebrate the sale, because people can get buyer's remorse and they change their mind the next day. So you know, don't just run away when you've made a sale. And you know something else, the best time to sell more is when you've just made a sale. So that's the best offering you can give. If you're selling a handbag, you know, well, you know, we can do these purses. In fact, a lot of car dealerships do that. They have like these big, nice cars, and then sometimes in the showroom a bit further down, they have smaller cars, because while you've bought your new big Jaguar or BMW, then maybe there's a Fiat for your 18-year-old that maybe can do a special discount. You get them all at once. So there's always an angle. Don't run away from the sale once you've made the sale. So I think we've also. I wasn't going to talk about contracts and things, but you do need to get your paperwork right as well. But I'm not going to labour on that. I'm just going to say get your paperwork ready and make sure it's right, because what you don't want to do is agree a sale or agree backup or agree after sales all on the wrong terms. Obviously, if it's someone's coming to your shop to buy a bag of crisps, we don't need to worry too much. We just need to make sure that we've got insurance right. And excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I'm talking too much. I'm finally agreeing with my partner. So it is an important process. So I'm just going to run through it again. But before I do, I'm not sure where you are with software, but there is some fantastic software out there. They call it client relationship management, and stuff like that is invaluable. In fact, I don't think I could run Accounts Direct without CRM software, because it reminds you of everything you've got to do. It logs everybody, whether they're a lead or a client or a contact, and it puts everything all in the same place. Very, very, very easy to find. And I think it's amazing. You can put automated triggers. I mean, my software is so sophisticated that I can connect it to an outside source and basically tell the system that if we've got a client in Birmingham and it's raining, send them a picture of an umbrella with a price list. That's how automated you can make these things. And the more automation you have, the more personal you can get where it counts. Because remember, 80% of your queries are going to come from 20% of your activity, if you're lucky. But only about 20% of your total activity is going to bring you any business in. The trouble is we just don't know which are the two. So measurement. So again, like I said, prospecting, the goal of prospecting is to develop a database. And once you've got people in the database, you want to start converting them into leads, and then obviously customers, and then you obviously want to make sales, and you want to make ongoing sales. Remember, an existing client will always buy from you more often, and it's much easier to sell because you've already developed that trust. And trust with people is so important. You know, nobody wants to deal with a fly-by-night that's not going to stand behind their products. So, unless someone's previously done business with you, you've got to win that trust all over again. Keeping trust and winning new trust are not the same thing. You keep trust with your customer base simply by doing what you've promised you'll do. You know, keep the relationships, keep them moving. You don't need to babysit people. You just have to do what you say you're going to do. And if there is a problem or a misunderstanding, just stand and deal with it. Don't run away. Don't pass the buck. Don't try and be clever with people. If something's not right, it's not right. Put it right. If it's not good enough, well, move on to the next. So we're coming to the little ideas of prospecting. So the usual technique, which is one I hate, and it's really becoming less popular, but done properly, telesales does work. You might need to engage with somebody first. I mean, you might be tweeting backwards and forwards, or you might be instant messaging. So you know what? After you've sort of got past that "hi, how are you" sort of thing, and you're already beginning to say that we know who each other are, maybe give them a ring. And I know I mention the same things all the time, but they were true. I mean, I've got a while ago when Twitter first started coming out and we didn't really understand it, we started phoning people and we said to them, look, you're following us on Twitter and we're following you, so I thought we'd make contact. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not offending anybody, but you know, we got some results until we got fed up doing it. That's another thing. Always be consistent. Email's great, doesn't cost anything. Well, there are costs, there's not any direct costs. It's getting to the point of having the content and the database. Again, database. There's no point emailing people out that are just not going to be interested in the information you're sending. So you know why bother? So emailing is good, but it's a good warm up. You know, it's like I said before, if you're looking to sell something, then go and knock on a few doors. Email's a good opener, it's a good introduction if people actually read it, but it's second rate to the phone calls or the cold call or the knocking on doors. Years ago, we used to send out mailers. We used to send out mail shops as a letter. I used to go out giving leaflets. In fact, one of the ways I did get started was I had some leaflets printed, and I just went around posting through people's shop fronts and businesses and offices, and then I went to the point of you know what, I'll walk in, I used to hand them and say, hi, can I give you this? And sometimes people would say, oh, what is it? And then I'm in with a conversation. And it's this is what happens. And if you don't make an appointment to go and present then, at least go back and keep them in your database. What we're doing now is social media and broadcasting. And that's another way of letting people get to know us. So we're doing these coaching courses, and the coaching courses they're getting busier and busier. So it's obviously the need for it, and people obviously like them. So we're really making manage with that. But the idea is that people get to know us and we get to know people, because sometimes the wrong customer is worse than no customer. And what we were planning, and I've no reason why you can't, and we can always help. We do offer some grants sometimes for people that want to arrange events and live shows, but once we go back to normal, then maybe we'll look at that. So I'm being signalled that we're coming to the end of the show. There is a bit more to go through, but I will cover this more in individual podcasts and when we're working with people in a group basis. But I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I hope it's not been too dull for you. And we'll see you during the week in the coaching sessions. Don't forget to mark like, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And please do come along and join one of our groups. Just send all we need from you is an email and a mobile number, and we can contact you and we can get you enrolled. If you like it, stay. If you don't, well, it was nice meeting you. So good night, and thank you for joining me.